in here again. This is the second video in this series. It may be helpful to go to the first one, but in this video I'm going to be explaining how I create the template, which is the starting point for designing each of the lighting shows for each individual song, as well as the starting point for my master lighting Ableton Set file for an entire show, meaning an entire concert basically. If you haven't yet, would you please subscribe? We're trying to get our subscribers up over 1,000 so we can monetize. We would appreciate it very much. Okay, let's dive in. Basically, as you saw in the last one, this is what my finished template looks like. We're going to create an audio track at the top, which is what you're going to use to map to. And then you're going to create a separate track for each of your lights. And then you're going to create a master light track, which is going to contain the automation lanes for your entire show, meaning all of the channels on all of your lights. So let's go ahead and start from a scratch file. Oops. Okay. You can go ahead and drag this audio file in front up here. I like to have my map, my audio file up top, and we can get rid of this audio because we won't need that. Then you can hit tab to get over to your session view. Now I will come into my first MIDI track, and I'm going to go over to instruments, and I'm going to drag an instrument rack in. And then in that instrument rack, I'm going to go to my plugins, go into NTech, and it doesn't matter if you choose effects or instrument, just so long as that all of your lights have the same the same version of the plugin, and that your master lighting track has the opposite of what you have in each of your individual lights. So let's just do effects. Well, to keep it consistent with my other video, let's keep it instrument. Okay, and what that's going to do is going to open up your plugin manager. Okay, I like to go ahead and just rename this. We'll call it Light 1. Okay, and the next thing that you're going to do is, if you haven't yet set up your plugin, it may just have numbers up on top. They may look blank like channels 14, 15, 16 do here. I'll go to a blank page so you'll see what it looks like. Okay, but here it'll say, 1 through 16 basically, and down here it'll say 17 through 32. You can either memorize, what channels on what lights. For me, I would highly recommend that you come in to the channel that you want to work on and you right click it. I don't know why it's not working. There we go. And then it comes with all of these fixtures already built in. I use these Eternal Lighting Cube Echoes in 13 channel mode, and you'll see when I click on it, boom, it already fills in what each of the channels in 13 channel mode do. If we go to one of my pages, even though it's 13 channels, you'll see that I basically start each of my lights on the leftmost fader in this plugin here, just because it's easier and more organized. So if we go to page 1 here, you'll see I've got all of these set up, and I've got 8 lights, 13 channels. So I've got basically starting on channels 1, channel 17, channels 33, and so on. I've got basically 4 pages of my lights set up because there's 2 lights per page. Okay, once that's done, you're going to come over here and click that disclosure triangle and hit configure. And you're just going to go to the channels that are associated with your light. My light number 1 back there starts on channel 1, and I only use the first 9 channels on each light. So basically you just click, and I would go in order from lowest channel to highest. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you can see them appearing down here. Once those are set up, what I like to do is I like to come in here and open up the macros. And it really doesn't matter what order you do this. I guess I like to, again, just keep everything organized like this. I'm going to come in and I'm just going to rename each of these. So I know that channel 1 controls red. So I'm going to go 1, R, hit tab. Now I'm going to go 1, because I'm talking about light number 1, green, hit tab, because we can see channel 2 controls green. Then we're going to go 1B, 1W, 1A, and so on. So 1B, 1A. Next is 1, oh, I skipped, sorry. Let me go back there. 1B, 1W, 1A, 1 UV. Then I do 1 RGBW dimmer. That's just the master dimmer for all those RGBW LEDs. And then this is my amber dimmer, so 1A dim. And unfortunately, you only get 8 macros, and I'm using 9, so that last one will stay what it is. I also find it a little bit helpful to recolor these, so just again, trying to stay organized and always making sure that I'm controlling what it is that I want to control. I just find this to be a little bit of work on the front end so that later on it can be a lot easier. Okay, finally, the last thing we need to do is we need to hit map, and we need to map each of these controllers. So we'll go 1 to red, 2 to green, 3 to blue, 4 to white, 5 to amber, 6 to UV, 7 to the main RGBW dimmer, and 8 to that one. So we won't get a macro for 9, but the reason I do this is because basically when we show these automation lanes later, now they will have the labels of the macros as opposed to just saying DMXIS.instrument1. And this way we know when we're drawing, we can very easily see, okay, I want the red LED on light number 1. We don't have to think, okay, red LED core on light number 1 is channel 1, and have to go through it in that way. Okay, once you're done mapping, you just finish like that. And now what you're going to do is you're going to, you can close this out, it's fine. You're going to right click on each of these automation lanes here, and just, I start on the back so that you'll see why in a second. You come up here and click show automation in new lane, and then it appears right up here. Then right click on 8, show automation in new lane. On 7, right click, show automation in new lane. Okay, now this is a little bit time consuming and tedious and annoying, but you'll only have to do this once, and then you'll have your lighting template. You'll never have to do it again. So again, the reason I start at the end is because now you can see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 listed up there. Oh, I did that wrong. Sorry. I'm gonna come here and do 9 show automation because there's no macro. Then I'm gonna come over here and make these the automation lanes. The other reason I do that, and this was my mistake, is because in the future, if I change lights or need to change the addresses of everything, these automation lanes will control these macros, which can then be assigned to different automation channels over here. So I won't actually have to change my automation. I'll just have to go and change the mapping a little bit later, should that be a problem. And now you can see up here, I've got light 1, 1R. And that's also really helpful. That's why I put the 1 and the B, because as I'm adding lights and I have 72 different channels, it won't just say red. I won't have to look up into the name of the track up here. Okay, so this track is done, and you can duplicate. It doesn't save you a tremendous amount of time to do it like this, and I'll show you why in a second. First of all, we have to rename as we did the first time. Then we obviously don't want this one to control channels, those same things, so we'll get rid of those. And over here we've got to rename the instrument rack to light 2. And now I'm going to go through and rename each of these. 2R, 2G, 2B, 2W, 2A, 2UV, 2 RGBW 2. And the other thing is that we're going to have to go through and delete these because we don't want it to control those same lights. So you still have to go through and do this. I just right hand delete, left hand return, so I can do it quick. Okay, now we're gonna add the parameters. Light number 2 starts on channel number 17. So now we just add them like this. Okay, hit configure, come over and click map, and we're gonna click 17 is red, 18 green, 19 blue, 20 white. So you can see what I'm doing here. Obviously, if you've got lights with different, you're going to have different lights with different channels. So you'll click on map there. And once again on this one, you're going to start. If there are any that go beyond your number of macros, you've got to click on them here as show automation a new lane. And then make sure that you're clicking on your macros when you're doing it this way. So you're going to do this for each of your lights. And you have to choose, what channels you want to control and what addresses they're going to start on. So obviously that's going to be different between yours and mine. But let's say, just for example's sake, you've just got 2 lights and you're controlling these same exact channels that I'm controlling. The last step in creating your template is to come to that final track. Here you're going to bring in an instance of DMXIS-FX or whatever the opposite of what you dragged into the lights. No need for an instrument rack here. We're going to do a very similar process though, where we're going to configure. And again, this is important. You want to sort of start at the bottom with the lowest channel and go up to the highest channel. So again, we're doing 9 channels for these 2 lights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up to UV dim, and then 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's it. Sometimes you might accidentally click something else. For me, I have to, for example, go to the next few pages. So if I click next screen, you'll see a DM next page. That's not something that I want to control. So basically, while you still have configure clicked or enabled, you just hit delete and it's gone. So here are the 18 channels that we're controlling in this example. You're going to go ahead and unclick configure. And in this case, again, no macros. We're going to start at the end and you're just going to right click and show automation a new lane like this. Oops. And you're going to have to do this for all of your automation lanes that you're trying to control. And it's really crucial that you follow the same order, because basically what we're going to be doing when we're designing is we're going to be copying and pasting. So if you're copying and pasting a different order, then you're going to be controlling different parameters than you want. We can go ahead and rename this one, master light, for example. And then you basically got your template set up. So you can, do a save live set as, and go ahead and save it as your lighting template. I already have one, so I'm not going to go ahead and save this one either. The only other thing that I think might be helpful that I want to mention is that on each of my lights, so that I make sure that I set them up properly, I put a piece of gaff tape and I use a silver Sharpie, and you can see I've got labels on them. So for example, this is light number 2. There we go. So I always know where to put each of the lights so that they're controlling the right one. And let's see if I've got anything else in my notes. I think that's it. So again, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, in the next couple videos I'm going to show you how I go ahead and actually design a show, and then I'm going to show you how I've created my master show set file, which has a few other little tips and tricks to make sure that everything works exactly as you want to. Oh, here is one last thing that's really actually good. I highly recommend before you save your master lighting template that if you have any like master dimmers, so I can control each of the individual dimmers here, but these master dimmers are actually more like masters to these which become slaves. So if the master dimmers are down, then none of these, no matter what my lighting is doing, will work. So sometimes it's helpful if I don't want to draw an automation for each of these 4 individual channels. If I just want the whole thing to dim at the end, it's easy for me to draw the automation on this automation lane. But I definitely recommend that before you save, just go ahead and put these automation, all of those master dimmers all the way up on each channel, on each lighting channel, that is. You don't need to necessarily worry about it on your master lighting. And then once you've done this, you may not have these on your lights, but once you've done that, now click save, and that's something, just saves you a step in the future. So thanks a bunch, and see you in the next one.